So, you think your belly fat is about carbs or not doing enough crunches, but the real problem goes much deeper than that. Let's talk about it. So, one of the biggest frustrations for midlife women today, at least the ones that I talk to, are this belly fat, the jelly belly, if you know what I mean. Most of the people that I talk to end up thinking that what the real problem is that they need to do more exercises or focus more on their core or do more ab kind of stuff, or that their core is weak. It must be just too many carbs, perhaps. Maybe they're not fasting long enough. Can you relate? Or one of the most common ones is my metabolism is just slowing down at this stage of life, and there's just nothing that I can do about it. Or I need more willpower just to stick to that darn diet. So, does this sound like you? I want to, first of all, just acknowledge that these are myths. The idea of that, if I just lose some weight, the belly is going to go. So if this is you, if you've tried all the things, you've done more crunches, you've eaten less carbs, you've had all the green smoothies, maybe even extended your fasting window, but that stubborn belly just doesn't want to budge, let's understand what's really going on. So the first thing I'm just going to give you a pass on that the truth is that we cannot spot train belly fat. It doesn't matter how many ab workouts that you do, belly fat is a symptom. It's not the root issue. So in midlife, a few big shifts are obviously happening beneath the surface. Our hormones are changing. The landscape is quite different. So when estrogen drops and cortisol rises, and your body starts to respond differently to food, to the environment, to exercise, and even stress. So this is a real thing. This is a biological issue. So if we start with looking at the chaos that's happening internally with our hormones, we have this decline of estrogen in midlife. Whether you're entering into perimenopause or you're postmenopause, this is what happens for us women. So, with the decline in estrogen, fat then redistributes itself, particularly adds to the belly. And as estrogen decreases, we are more sensitive to insulin. And of course, our diet also affects that, and so does stress, and so does sleep, which we'll talk about. But as insulin resistance increases, it's much easier for us to gain fat and harder for us to lose fat. And then, of course, the stress hormone cortisol is running the show behind chronic stress. So, what you may have found is decades, years, I don't know, perhaps of stress that's ongoing that is contributing and compiling this particular issue. And even though you may think that your metabolism is slowing because of age, it doesn't work that way. Our metabolism slows because of lifestyle. So if we become more sedentary, also, as women, we tend to lose muscle mass after the age of 30 on a pretty rapid decline if we're not actively building it. So we have less muscle, and that decreases our basal metabolic rate. So we tend to burn less calories that way, although this is not about calories in or calories out. So let's talk about stress, because this is a really large contributing factor to the cortisol belly. So cortisol, as you may know, the stress hormone, it prompts our body to store fat around the belly, and that what that does is it's a very protective mechanism to protect the vital organs. So we also need to understand that stress just isn't emotional. It is completely biological. So stress can come from a multitude of things. So let's remember, first of all, stress can be imagined, perceived, or real. And stress can actually come from good things, like things that get us excited, but we're on the move. Our nervous system and our body doesn't know any difference. It still triggers the same biological process. So whether that's from lack of sleep or under eating or over exercising or internal stress, mental stress, emotional stress, financial stress. These are all contributing factors. So we can't just like green smoothie our way out of a high stress life. The other thing that happens over time is that we have kind of severed, not severed, broken the relationship with our body. So we've broken this trust. If we've had years of dieting or overexerting or running on empty, these chronic stress kind of loops that I myself have been in, and my body is still paying the price. Um, the body no longer feels safe. So this trust relationship that we have with our body and our nervous system, our hormones really are not on side. So when we're constantly in the mode of fight or flight, the signals are just crossed, and your body is always on high alert and high on guard to protect itself. And I think the other thing that we have to consider here is there is just so much, I don't know, call it misinformation, miseducation out there, that much of the information that we're is coming into our spheres comes from one, outdated models, but also perhaps from younger, more fitness derived or focused information, or for weight loss that's geared to younger women. So very different things happen in a 25-year-old body versus a 55 or 65-year-old body. So midlife is not the same when we're navigating these kind of hormonal shifts. It really does change the inner terrain and also the game. The other contributing factors that we need to consider are sleep. So if we don't get adequate amount of sleep, if our sleep is poor, what that does is it messes with our hunger hormones. Ghrelin is the hormone that makes us hungry, and leptin is the one that tells us we're full. So it's interesting. The more fat that we have dysregulates these hormones, that the signals are crossed. You would think that it's the opposite, but in fact, it's not. So if we have more fat, this has a ripple effect of these hunger hormones not working in the way on the seesaw that they should, but also poor sleep also aggravates and dysregulates these particular hormones. So what that means is increased craving. So you may notice that yourself when you don't sleep well one night, the next day you're looking for or you're reaching for more carbohydrates or more things to eat, or you just feel ravenous throughout the entire day. So that is a definitely biological response. The other thing that we talked about briefly was the loss of muscle mass. So what that does in effect is it lowers our metabolism. So again, it's not about age, it's about lifestyle. So um, that that is something that we have to address as females, as women, particularly in midlife and beyond. And we talked about it, or I mentioned it briefly. If we're over exercising and under eating, this is again another stressor on the body. So let's talk about what you actually can do. This is not all doom and gloom because it can be changed, it can be rectified. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to, in my opinion, number one would be to focus on stress and cortisol levels. So this is probably easier said than done, but even if we can build in micro moments into our days, little restorative types of practices, whether it's gentle connection with nature, getting outside, walking, grounding, ensuring you have adequate sleep, deep breathing exercises, things that are gentle and kind to your body. So to get out of go mode and get into slow mode. The other thing that I'm a big advocate about, and it's not just because I'm a nutritionist, but there's science behind this. So the more you can focus on blood sugar balance, the more you're going to control insulin. Insulin, as you may know, is a fat storage hormone. So we really want to focus on balancing blood sugar, and how you can do that. It's very simple in the way that I approach it anyhow, is having balanced meals. Every meal contains all the macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates in an amount that will sustain you for about 4 to 5 hours. So no snacking. in between meals and sticking to 3 meals per day and not putting in any additional stress onto the system by actually fasting for long periods of time. So this is a conversation we have with our body, right? When we eat regularly in a balanced way, the body can feel safe. It knows it's getting nourishment. You're not asking it to do difficult tasks with an empty tank. So this is one thing that we can do. Obviously, you've probably heard this before, but strength training, building muscle is really going to, first of all, help use the glucose that you're taking in from your diet, but also it's going to help boost our metabolism and increase our metabolic or our basal metabolic rate. The other thing is like being gentle but consistent with yourself versus anything that's extreme. And I know myself being in this situation when I encountered, there was a couple of times in my life where I just couldn't figure out what the heck was going on with my body. But when you're in the mode that you're trying to shed weight, you kind of get aggressive about it and you kind of, become the sergeant with yourself. And that can be so aggressive and very difficult on the body. So to be kind, nurturing, and consistent and patient with yourself as you venture into this. So I just want to let you know that if you have this stubborn belly fat, I just want you to know that it's not just you and you're not broken, you're not lazy. Your body is actually trying to protect you. So the fat around the abdomen is really a symptom. And the symptoms are what our body uses to communicate with us and show us something's up, something's wrong, something needs attention. So it merely is a symptom and not something to get mad or frustrated about, as much as that may be the default mode. So let's see if we can shift from, shrinking the belly to really understanding the body. I think that's going to be far more helpful. And if you want to go deeper, I'd love to have a conversation with you. This is what I do. I help midlife women restore hormone functions, their metabolism, and get to ideal weight. I can drop the link in the notes here if you want to have a conversation. Currently, I do offer a 30-minute free consultation. It's an exploratory conversation just to understand what's going on with you. And so we can look on a deeper level of how your metabolism may be affected and how I may be able to help you. And if that feels like a good fit, please take advantage of the opportunity while it's free today. I'll wish you well and hope that you shed a little bit of love on that belly of yours because it really is trying to protect you. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.